that is.
Trump firing back in a series of tweets to those comments made by the president in that new interview that we first shared with you yesterday. The president-elect also defending his charitable giving and his foundation while dismissing the United Nations, calling it a club for people to have a, quote, good time. This, as we are 24 days away from inauguration. Let's begin our coverage this hour with our Jessica Snyder. She is live in Palm Beach, Florida, where the sun has come up. What are you hearing?
Well, you know, Poppy, by the looks of it out here at Mar-a-Lago, it is mostly quiet. You know, the president-elect staying mostly out of the public view over the past few days over Christmas. That is, of course, except for Twitter, where Donald Trump is fighting back on some topics and even lashing out. The president-elect going after President Obama after Obama speculated he would have won a third term if it was possible, using his message of hope and inclusion.
I'm confident that if I had run again and articulated it, I think I could have mobilized a majority of the American people to rally behind it.
Trump tweeting, Obama said he thinks he would have won against me. He should say that, but I say no way. Then boasting, the world was gloomy before I won. There was no hope. Now the market is up nearly 10% and Christmas spending is over $1 trillion. Trump seemingly overlooking Obama's record of cutting unemployment to a 9-year low and taking credit for holiday spending figures that aren't final numbers. Trump also going after his favorite target, the media, over his charity. The president-elect claiming he gave and raised millions, tweeting, all of which is given to charity and media won't report. But tax records show Trump has not donated to his foundation since 2008. No one can confirm any other charitable giving since Trump has not released his tax records. The Trump Foundation itself admitted to violating IRS regulations and is currently under investigation by the New York Attorney General.
Right now, we need to have a president who is free of conflict of interest. That means dissolving the foundation. That also means President Trump selling off his business interests that create conflicts of interest, making sure there's no foreign government money coming into his operations.
Trump also continuing to air diplomatic grievances on social media, questioning the United Nations' value following the Israeli settlement resolution. Trump tweeting that the UN has such great potential, but right now it is just a club for people to get together, talk, and have a good time. So sad. And it will be back to business here at Mar-a-Lago today after that short Christmas break. The president-elect holding several meetings today. We're still looking to hear exactly who he'll be meeting with. But, of course, some key cabinet posts that we're still waiting to hear about. They include the Director of National Intelligence as well as secretaries of both Agriculture and Veterans Affairs. So waiting to hear on that. And, of course, Inauguration Day rapidly approaching January 20th. Poppy and Don?
Oh, it's getting close. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Jessica Snyder. Let's get a discussion started now with our panel. Senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner and podcast host of Examining Politics, David Drucker, and CNN contributor and New York Post columnist Selena Zito both join us. So let's talk about this, about who would win now. We will never know who would win now, would we?
No. And this is part of life. There's a lot of do-overs I'd like, but I don't.
So why is this happening? Why would the president-elect even respond to
Because this is who he is and what he does. He does not believe in walk softly and carry a big stick, apparently. He believes in talking loudly and making sure that everybody knows what we already know. And I don't know how else to really get into his head other than to say that it seems as though he's very protective. He always has been throughout his real estate and his television career, of making sure that people understood just how important and famous and victorious he is. And that's just, and I think from his perspective, really politically, he probably looks at it like this. This is what got me where I am. This is what my supporters like, this brash, take no prisoners, throw out convention sort of behavior. And so why should I stop doing it? Because after all, I won.
He's not running against Obama. He ran against Hillary Clinton. This is not Hillary Clinton.
Yes, and soon he'll be running against Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, and Nancy Pelosi. In other words, this is how he is going to conduct politics. He thinks it works, and so far we can't disprove him because he was elected president.
So with so much going on right now, Selena, on the international stage, from Israel to obviously the crisis in Syria and much, much more, he tweeted about the country being what he called gloomy before he won. He tweeted about winning, which they just talked about, and how he would have beaten the current president. And he also tweeted about his foundation last night. Let's look at some of these. He said, the DJT Foundation, unlike most foundations, never paid fees, rent, salaries, or any expenses. 100% of the money goes to wonderful charities. And then he tweeted, I gave millions of dollars to the DJT Foundation, raised or received millions more, all of which is given to charity, and the media won't report. So what we do know is that he said he will shutter this foundation. It's going to be tough because it's being investigated by the New York Attorney General. We also know from CNN's review of the documents, he hasn't given himself to this foundation since 2008. And he hasn't held a press conference in 5 months. It is 5 months today, so we can't ask him questions about this.
Right. Well, you know, as far as the foundation goes, yes, he created in '98. He put his children in charge of it in 2006. He personally hasn't given money since 2008, but he has raised tens of millions of dollars, and he has given to, you know, his foundation itself has been philanthropic. It's also, you know, done some things that, you know, were outside the lines of what foundations should be doing. But beyond that, you know, David is right. Trump uses Twitter to project strength, and he uses it to leverage his strength for whatever he's going to do next. And he gives you those hints every time he sends out a tweet. He's letting you know how he feels about something, like when he was talking about President Obama. I like the fact that he acknowledged, he gave him sort of a hat tip, like, okay, I know you needed to say that. I would have said it too.
But Selena,
but no way I would have. You would have beat me.
On the truth about the foundation, though, the foundation is apparently admitted in IRS filings to self-dealing. And then getting back to it again, he hasn't donated since 2008, $5.4 million, but that was not since 2008. We won't know because he hasn't released the returns. From 2009 to 2014, the foundation raised $4.36 million, $2.5 million from New Yorkers. That's what records show. But again, we still don't know all of it. And the foundation, basically, if you look at the records and what he's accused of, and especially by Eric Schneiderman here in New York, doing the same things that he accused Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation of doing during the campaign.
Right. I mean, and the problem is there's such a gap of what we don't know. And until this is either unfolded through the Attorney General's office in New York, or is closed and the IRS information is eventually revealed, that's going to remain a mystery. The one thing he did do good is that he said that he's going to shutter it. Again, there's a lot of entanglements that are going to hinder him from doing that, but he's sort of projecting to people, I'm going to start doing the things I need to do to close my business.
But he can't do it right away because of the New York,
right? It could be a while. David, let's turn to the inauguration, because it's 24 days until he makes this address. And first of all, is he going to use a teleprompter or not? I'm fascinated by that. No, everyone has since Reagan. But more importantly, we now know who's going to write the remarks, and that is Stephen Miller, the same guy who wrote the RNC address. It was very dark. It was very ominous. It talked about I alone can fix it. And so the question is, will this inaugural address be the same tone as a campaign, RNC address, or will it be one of unity? What do you think?
Well, I think it'll be a mixture. I mean, if you look at what is important to Donald Trump, I think that he's going to talk about those issues that he wants to deal with as president, and I think that he's going to do it in his own unique fashion. I think Stephen Miller, excuse me, writing.
I get him confused.
Right, a lot of Millers. No offense to the Millers. I think that, I think that if you look at the inaugural address and then saw how Trump's remarks sort of evolved from the convention through Election Day, he never fully abandoned that sort of dark, ominous tone about where he thought the country was, but he did sort of change the tone a little bit, and he talked more about unity and more about wanting to bring the country together. So I think we're going to see a mixture. The thing about Trump is he doesn't do grand oratory or sort of stately oratory in the way that we're accustomed to with presidents. I mean, certainly not like Obama or Reagan, but not even like George W. Bush, who would deliver a very sort of presidential presidential speech. Trump always interjects his own sort of Trumpisms into a speech, and he does it in his own sort of populist way. So I think we're going to probably see a mixture. And a speech like this, it's not going to be, straight from Miller to Trump. I'm sure Steve Bannon will be involved, and Reince Priebus will be involved, and his children will be involved.
But I did know, because I know Stephen had been on my show a number of times and had been on CNN. He's a very nice guy, right? But he is very hardline. But I noticed, and a very good writer. But I noticed when Kellyanne Conway came on, his tone in the speeches softened. That was an influence that she had on, I would think, Stephen Miller's writing.
Right, because they recognized that I alone can fix it was too Chavez-esque, and that they needed to do something a little bit more American, and I think that's what you'll see from Donald Trump on Inauguration Day.
David, thank you.
Thank you very
Selena,
much.
thank you very much. We'll see you 24 days to go. We appreciate it.
Resolution condemning Israeli settlement building in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. The move comes amid increased tensions between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Barack Obama. CNN's Oren Lieberman is in Jerusalem with more now.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has doubled down on his criticism, not only of President Barack Obama, whom he pretty much directly blames for the passing of the UN Security Council resolution, but also his anger at the other countries that voted for this resolution. As for the U.S., Israel says it was the U.S. all along that was behind the resolution, drafting it, writing it, and pushing it forward. Here is what Netanyahu's spokesman had to say. David Keyes to CNN.
We have ironclad information from sources in the Arab world and internationally, and we're going to share that information with the incoming administration through the proper channels, and if the new administration chooses to share that information, that's their prerogative.
As for what that information is that the U.S. was behind this resolution from the very beginning, the Israelis won't say. We've pushed them both here and in the U.S., and they haven't put out any of that information, so right now it stands just as an accusation. As for diplomatic moves, Netanyahu has limited working ties with the embassies and ministries of the countries that voted for the resolution. It's a largely symbolic move with little practical effect, but as a statement, it is a big one on Netanyahu's anger.
Oren Lieberman in Jerusalem, thank you so much. The Obama administration is playing defense following those accusations, as you just heard, that it worked behind the scenes to bring that settlement resolution before the UN Security Council. The White House vehemently denying that. This is Secretary of State John Kerry prepares to outline a peace plan later this week. What will he say? Our global affairs correspondent Elise Labott broke the news in Washington. She has more. I mean, this is a tough situation, context to deliver those remarks in, and frankly with the admission that they just did not get nearly as far as they wanted to on this.
That's right, Poppy. And as you said, the White House is vehemently denying those accusations that the U.S. orchestrated this vote in some kind of ambush against Israel, saying this should be no surprise. And the proof, officials argue, is the last 8 years of the Obama administration struggling to get Israel to halt settlement construction in occupied lands the Palestinians claim for their state. Now, take a listen to Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes speaking to Israeli television about this yesterday.
By definition, it's not an ambush when President Obama and Secretary Kerry have been saying in hundreds of conversations and in public comments that Israeli settlement activity was pushing into the West Bank in a way that was making the two-state solution unachievable.
And it is a very tense atmosphere very soon when Secretary of State John Kerry, as early as this week, he spent the better part of a year trying unsuccessfully to get a peace deal. Now he's going to deliver a major speech laying out the Obama administration's vision for how they see the conflict being resolved, where things stand as they prepare to leave office without having made much progress towards peace, Don.
Elise Labott, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The world is paying close attention to the diplomatic situation.